right? So we've heard a lot about AI so far. We know that AI is revolutionizing risk management and analysis by enhancing predictive accuracy, automating complex tasks, and providing deeper insights into potential threats. In today's dynamic environment, leveraging AI can empower project managers like us to remain more informed, take more proactive decisions, and mitigate risks more effectively. To tell us exactly how to do all of this and more, we call upon Mr. Matthew Waters, Senior Account Manager, Saffron Software Solutions, on stage. Matt brings over 20 years of experience in the software industry with a diverse background in security, e-commerce, and now project management. His journey from lean and agile project management to specializing in project risk management and analysis has equipped him to work directly with teams managing large-scale projects across EMEA and Asia. So we look forward to hearing from you, Matt. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, can everyone hear me? All right, so what's tough acts to follow? They've all been such wonderful talks today. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to the PMI team for having me here, and Saffron are very proud sponsors of this event. The quality of conversation here today has just been absolutely astounding, and I've learned a huge amount about the sort of IT project management world. Today, actually, I'm going to share a little bit more about some of the challenges that project management people face in the kind of physical project world. So Saffron, a bit of history quickly. Saffron were born of the oil and gas industry. And since then, they've moved into risk as a scheduled planners. We since then moved into risk management and risk analysis as a speciality. And from there, we are now helping nuclear power stations be built, stadiums, massive infrastructure projects. I think the chap from Infosys earlier today mentioned 48 trillion in global project values. I can personally account for about 10 trillion of that just from my clients across EMEA, India, and Asia. And so Saffron has a very unique insight into some of these projects. So these are where the digital world meets the physical. So, you know, maybe AI can't help pouring concrete just yet, or putting up a bridge, but it can certainly help with the planning and the kind of operational side of things to get the people into the right places and the schedules sort of enacted. So today we're going to look at it. I'm going to ask you to sort of use your imaginations a bit and sort of think more about that physical world and what sort of roles can AI play in risk management and analysis of these grand capital projects. Here we go. So what does the future hold with AI? Is it Skynet? Is it world domination? Is it the job market disappearing? Or don't worry, AI will be dead in 5 years. I think realistically speaking, none of those statements are going to be true. Although Skynet does scare me a little bit, the Terminator, can't help but wonder, right? I've watched the film too many times. I think actually when we start looking into the reality of the risk management process, we can actually start looking at the breakdown. So this is the ISO 31000 risk management process. And I'm just going to walk through some of the steps here and talk about how AI can either already or maybe in the future augment the role of a risk manager in these particular aspects of risk management. And later on, we'll visit some of the kind of different scenarios that could play out. Okay. So the sort of scope, context, and criteria. This is where we really contextualize our projects and our risks. It could be the difference between building tarmac in a road at McDonald's or versus an aircraft carrier. So the customer must actually determine the baseline. But once established, AI could make recommendations to assist with the profitability or the cost-benefit analysis, or even eventually create optioneering different sort of scopes. So in the start of a project, what different strategies are going to be more profitable versus other options. That typically takes risk managers and bid teams hours and hours and hours to complete. I think AI is very, very capable of reducing that time down considerably and giving stakeholders and decision makers very quick information to start making informed decisions right from the beginning of a project. Next step in the process is risk identification. So, of course, we've all heard large language models being thrown about quite a lot. Risk management is relatively unique because there's probably 4 or 5 different aspects of risk management and analysis that requires its own large language model. But in the case of risk identification, it can definitely be said that that AI can most certainly create that first list, that first pass for risk managers or subject matter experts to be given. These are the likely risks that you can expect to encounter in your particular project, in your particular specialist field. Just to give a bit of indication here, that we've got some projects where there are 2,500 subject matter experts contributing risk data towards a risk manager for analysis to guide the project. So these are really large-scale projects. Some of them are $500 billion in value for one single project, right? So no one likes to start with a blank page, but we're of the mind here at Safran that even once you've got that first pass, it does require that human in the loop to just vet the information, verify it, and start teaching the machine to come back with better answers. But in the real world of today, we are maybe given a list and we need to work on it, refine it, and make it a useful tool for managers to use. The next step in the process is risk analysis. Now, I think this is possibly in the future one of the strongest areas that AI could actually benefit. There's a huge scope of complicated algorithms and different simulations that take place for risk analysis to happen. And we're all firmly aware of the garbage in, garbage out principles of risk management, risk analysis, right? Now, in theory, AI could do pretty much all of it. But when you start interrogating that data, you very quickly end up in a black box scenario. And what we're finding in the world of physical project delivery is that black box creates questions that are unexplainable outputs. So why is the computer, or why is the AI determining this is the right course of action? And when you have a stakeholder who's responsible for a £500 billion project, they need to know the answers to that question. And so the black box starts to become less of an option available to risk managers in the space that we operate typically. And we're going to explore that in a bit more detail in just a moment. Risk evaluation. I think this is the part of the process where, this is where you're deciding what to do, how to mitigate. It's probably the strongest area for AI. It can come up with a multitude of mitigation strategies. It can likely cost those strategies out immediately and start really giving informed different options and decisions, or potential decisions for project stakeholders to make. Moving on to the next part of the phase is the risk evaluation. This one, we had a funny conversation about this. This is very limited for AI to impact because effectively the treatments are you going to use the extra rebar in concrete, or are you actually in the physical real world? And how would AI enforce that? And short of robots with sticks or something, we're not quite sure exactly how AI can ensure the treatment of that risk is taking place in the physical world. And I certainly don't want to be a part of the team who started Skynet. It certainly wouldn't be the output we're looking for. So I think that's the sort of limited area where AI can kind of affect today. Moving on to sort of the risk treatment, the remainder of the scope, you see I've left in blue. And so, each color is a representative of how much it could be impacted. The blue is kind of where the humans are required, right? We're the ones who are kind of monitoring the system. We're going out and asking, have you performed the actions? There's that human interaction, getting the feel of the project. But overall, I think there is a huge opportunity for AI to augment and empower risk managers to provide better and more clear and concise information to the project managers and to the stakeholders. So we kind of looked at maybe a scale of how AI is possibly going to be implemented in our real project world. We're actually building bridges and stuff like that. Today is where we call it 0. We think roughly today it's around 25% capability. Percent is maybe the wrong word, but 25 of 100. There are 1 or 2 solutions in the market for sort of the area we work in specifically. They might automatically create schedules. It still requires a lot of human interaction. The challenge is the large language models have to come from each individual company. And of course, we create a solution for all. And so each individual company has to determine, do they have the right data ready? Are they able to feed the right information into the AI for it to become a valid tool for them? So we feel there's a long way to go. Looking at the other end of the scale, the 100% mark, That's the full autonomy where everything's taken care of by AI. And that's what we refer to as the kind of black box scenario. And I'm going to go into reasons why that's probably not going to be possible in the near future for delivering of physical projects. But I think, for me, the personal future sweet spot is the kind of AI the chap mentioned before about the prompts for an AI. Imagine walking to your desk and just communicating with your laptop, saying, hey, Jarvis, Iron Man, pops up a visual image of your project, and you start interrogating the model verbally, and the AI does the work in the background for you. And I think that would be a wonderful place for us all to be. Pretend we're Iron Man for a day, designing our Iron Man suit, but really we're designing models to help deliver projects more effectively. And so it requires the genius of human input to make the intelligent outputs and decisions. And I think that's really where we're kind of aiming for. The digital meets the physical world. There's got to be a conduit, and I think the humans will always have that place in that particular spot. But I wanted to spend just a moment talking about maybe the 100% AI scenario, because I often get asked, are our jobs at risk? Are we going to be replaced? Is Safran going to be replaced by AI? And I think at the moment, probably not, fortunately. I'd like to keep my job. But realistically, the black box option. So we've had feedback from people in the market who are using our software, who are using sort of rudimentary AI solutions, and they've maybe had things go wrong on a project worth £2-3 billion, and they have to go and answer some difficult questions with their project stakeholders. Now, bearing in mind, this is an environment where you have subcontractors, EPCs, you have sort of main contract deliveries, contractors, and then you have the client. So there's maybe 4 or 5 levels of accountability where you really have to answer for the plans that you've put in place, the decisions that you've made. And unfortunately, at the moment, in this particular scenario, the black box solution where you're told what to do, but not why the decision's been made. You lose some of the context, yes, make that decision. And imagine having to sort of say in a meeting, we lost £1 billion on this project. Why? Well, the AI kind of told us this was the best route. And so culturally at the moment, that's not really an excuse that's going to sit well with the stakeholders. I couldn't imagine going to my boss and saying, yeah, I did it because I was told to by a computer. So we need that human interaction in there as possible. And a big part of risk management and risk analysis is being able to give explainable outputs, right? It's being able to pull the layer back and say, look, we came to this decision and here are the different sort of inputs, decisions that we made. Here are the basis of our decisions. How do we justify the recommendations? And so, being able to actually show your workings, as it were. Remember at school, show your workings? We need to be able to do that when justifying in the physical project world, exactly what we're doing and why we're making the decisions that we are. Ultimately, one failed decision can cost enough to tank a project. And of course, what would happen to all you wonderful risk managers and project managers out there? We think you will do a wonderful job and we'd like to keep you. So I think 100% AI in risk management and risk analysis, probably not just yet. There's not enough trust just yet in the AI models and outputs. I think it can come in the future for sure. We need to move beyond just this kind of machine learning large thing. We need to almost have an AI that sits across maybe 10 or 15 large language models for risk management and analysis to have that kind of maybe human experience to be fully realized in the AI interface. So I think there's lots of interesting stuff that can happen. So, a bit more, I think, let's move on to maybe move away from doomsday stuff and move into what can happen today. So what you'll see on the screen here is a black bar across, and this is actually a screenshot from one of our solutions called Safran Risk. Safran Risk is a Monte Carlo simulation tool. It's where we put in a schedule, we perform checks on the schedule, we put in a risk register, a cost model, and then we build in some correlations and some mappings. Okay, so these are your inputs to an analysis, as it were. And currently, these are kind of manually automated, as it were. So, I hate that phrase, but it's a piece of software that does a lot of the work for you, but it requires you to press the buttons and do the work. And some of it can be rather tedious. Having to do a risk mapping for maybe 100 risks against a 10,000 line item schedule with 5,000 line item cost breakdown structure. That's a big, big job. And risk managers have huge amounts of skill, and I think their skill and expertise should be applied in creating actionable insights and outputs for people to make decisions. And so what we're intending to do in the future is to bring automation and augment these risk managers. You've heard that word a lot today. To give them AI automation to reduce the time spent on those tedious tasks. And of course, in the output selection, I think in the future, I can't say there's anything in the works just yet, but I think there's the capability in discussions being had, is there going to be some sort of Jarvis-style interactive AI assistant on the outputs? Imagine having a load of great outputs and scenarios that you can put forward to make a decision on a project. But you've got 4 or 5 different people in the audience, one who's financially motivated, one who is, much more operational, another who is, has a different communication style. And being able to say to your AI assistant, can you produce these outputs in the language of each stakeholder that I'm talking to? Can you help me communicate this in a way that is going to actually get the message across and help us to deliver value back into the project? Because a challenge that a lot of risk managers face is they have very limited time to do a huge amount of work. And they end up with one report, okay? And it's very hard to communicate that 4 different messages in one conversation. And so I think in the future there is definitely some opportunities for some very, very cool inputs from AI to really augment that sort of reporting suite of information. So, we've got a few minutes remaining. I'd really like to get a bit of a steer from you guys. Where would you like the pin to drop, shall we say, on the scale? Raise your hands if you're happy for everything to stay as it is and continue as we are today. I can't imagine many people. No. Maybe raise your hand if you think that the Jarvis kind of style, full AI assistant, Iron Man assistant style is where you see the future. Who thinks that's a cool idea? There's a couple of Marvel fans at least. Excellent. I feel at home. And who thinks that maybe in the future it's going to be 100% automated with AI? No. All right, there's one or two. Hopefully Skynet isn't included in that. So I think, to be honest, we seem to be on the same sort of page. I've had a lot of the talks today. It's been absolutely great to hear. And Safran, I think, is in a very similar position, thought-wise. But I must say, actually, the physical kind of project delivery world is a bit behind the curve in terms of the capabilities of the AI in the IT industry, right? I've been blown away by the advances in technology that you're all having possible access to. But at least from the physical project delivery world, I think the Safran's conclusion is that we're all kind of safe for now. The future will definitely be filled with risk managers that are augmented by artificial intelligence. I like to think I'm looking at a room of potentially 400 new Iron Men. That's because I'm a bit of a geek. But all in all, I think it's a rather exciting future. And thank you very much for inviting me here to be a part of it. Just one final note. Please feel free to come and visit our stand if you want to ask a bit more about risk management, risk analysis, and how it can help you deliver your projects on time and on budget. Always happy to answer your questions. We also have a QR code. If you'd like to come along and scan it, you can be entered into a raffle. Or it just means that we can contact you and set up a demonstration so that you can actually see our tools, what they can actually do today, and the tremendous value that they can add to projects, whether physical, IT, or anything else. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt. That was really inspiring and interesting. I loved the 100% black box concept that you mentioned, how Safran is actually helping humanity in the space of AI. And can we have a Jarvis-style AI interactive assistant? I would really wait for that day.
I think we're a few years away from it, but I'd really like it.
Absolutely. I was the one who raised my hand when you asked that question for Jarvis. So thank you so much again, Matt. And we are open for questions. We can take 2 questions. So if anybody has, yes, sir.
I think my mic's off.
Hello, my name is Balarama Varanasi. I'm Vice President, Global Academic and Entrepreneurial Partnership for Academy for Global Business Advancement. my question is, I see like, mafia, like, $48 trillion, whatever AI, all corporates, like jamming up like that. Okay, my personal experience. I do not see how do we use the technology for inclusion? Like we have like a 60 crore people, students in the age group of 20 to 35. Is AI relevant? I need the impact of scale. I need to create 20 crore jobs, otherwise I will have protest of scale. We could have potentially 2 crores, 5 crores people coming on the street, and we could have like a riots in, Capitol Hill. We could experience that in India. We do not see, everybody is investing in AI, right? Why don't you invest in, say, hybrid global enterprise technology, like, that inclusion, American technologies, access to our people, the cost advantage you people getting in your companies for AI, do a relative, cost benefit analysis, how best we can get with hybrid global enterprise like that. We got to be relevant. We could not be like a inbreeding. We need to connect with our academia, research centers globally and all. That is my experience, and I want you, how do we, this mafia, how do we bring common sense back to humanity? Thanks.
Well, that's trying to find the question in there, but I think we're on your team. I think there's definitely, the human input is never going to be lost. I think it's going to be augmented by AI, but there is just there's always going to be that human experience that we require and that we need. And I know that we encourage and develop the sort of students around the world. We've got programs where we enable students to learn about risk management, and there's definitely the IRM and other institutions who are educating people by their thousands, new into the profession. I even spoke to a couple of students today who are studying and have taken risk management as a subject within their course. So I think there's a huge amount of new blood coming in, and I think there's always going to be a need for the human input in risk management and analysis, because a big part of it is the relationships with the subject matter experts, with the subjects themselves, and I think AI is just going to help automate some of the easier stuff. So I hope that somewhat answers your question, or at least affirms that we're working on the same team.
Yeah, I see thumbs up from him, so yeah. Thank you, Matt. Okay, one last question. Yes, can we have a round of applause for Matt for that lovely presentation
Okay,
first?
thank you.
And any other last questions for him before we move on to the next segment? Okay, I see a hand there.
Hello, hi Matthew.
Yeah.
Hello.
This is Chandrasekhar from Kyndryl. So I currently work on a couple of risk management process. So I just want to understand more about the difference between ISO 31000, what you explained, versus ISO IEC 42001 2003, which is for AI security framework, right? So can you just throw some lights to the conference? That would be great help.
So I would be lying if I said I knew the exact differences. I know about the ISO 31000, but my first impression is that ISO 31000 has been designed specifically for project delivery and project management in the sense of the risk management process. It's also kind of reaffirmed there's a number of different, there's the Institute of Risk Management, there's AACE, so they're all very, very similar in their process and approach, and so it's becoming a standardized model. I'm afraid I don't know the other ISO practice that you mentioned, but I think more and more it's, risk has always been viewed as a compliance requirement, and I think in recent years especially, people are starting to see the opportunity of engaging risk in the right way becomes an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to maybe plan your project differently, to improve your profit margins and things like that. And so people are starting to take risk in a much more serious manner, hence why companies like Safran are growing in the way that they are. And I think with the help of AI in the future, that's just going to grow even more.
Okay, I just have one last question. So can you just explain just some lights on the ServiceNow related risk module versus Safran? Just want to give it something and throw light on differences on the product ability or capability.
So I think was that a question around how does Saffron help you be more productive?
The Saffron product comparison with the typical corporate, the risk management. So most of us, we use the ServiceNow risk module or some other modules like a ServiceNow risk module for risk management process.
Okay, so I think the first comparison to make is that Saffron Risk and Saffron Risk Manager. So they are built specifically for the large complex projects, so a project risk management tool. So we're not necessarily an enterprise risk management tool, although we have some enterprise risk management capabilities. And that's where a lot of risk functionality sits in the likes of Sword or in Oracle's OPC, which is a great product. But it's a bit light on the really kind of complex, deep risk analysis and risk management. And it's, again, our risk management tool is designed specifically for project management activities. And so it's very, very light touch for the people who just need to enter risk information. And it's then very, very deep and complex for the risk managers who really need to get into the weeds of the statistical kind of numbers and qualitative and quantitative data. But again, if you'd like a bit more information on any of this, please do just scan your code on our stand and we will reach out to you. We can organize a demonstration and learn a bit more about how we could potentially help you deliver your projects on budget and on time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. Once again, Matt, I would request 1 minute. Matt, excuse me. Sorry. Just one.
I'm keen to get off the stage, apparently.
He won't let you go so fast. Okay. So with that, thank you once again for all the questions. And may I now request on stage Suresh Adipalli, Director Volunteers, PMI PCC, to kindly present Matt with a memento as a token of our gratitude. Let's put our hands together, people, for Matt and Suresh.